Welcome back to the show, everybody. So this week's episode, I have Yulin Lee joining me, and she's going to share about an experience that she had about a year ago, I think, in her work as a money coach. And I'll let her tell you all about it. But first, I want to introduce Yulin. Yulin and I have actually known each other now probably for 4 or 5 years, somewhere around there. We met when we both lived in San Francisco and joined a networking group for women. And I actually don't even remember, Yulin, where we officially met for the first time, but I do remember our first coffee date. And I just remember sitting down with you in Noe Valley at a coffee shop and just really having a beautiful conversation. And as a person who deeply values or greatly values deep conversations, we just hit it off instantly. And we may go 6 months without speaking. We've always supported each other's businesses in various ways. But it seems to me that every time we do connect, there's always some real beautiful conversation and value that we bring to each other. And I'm just grateful for the connection and the collaboration. So thank you. And Yulin, I'll let you introduce yourself formally, let people know who you are, where you are, what you do for a living.
Oh, thank you so much. And first of all, likewise, I always enjoy every time when we speak, whether it's, in person or over Zoom. So my name is Yulin Lee. I am a money empowerment coach. I am based in Palo Alto, California. Although I did start my coaching business while I was living in Paris back in 2014. So I've been doing this for a little while now. And my goal and my mission in life now is to help more women to get on the path of living a financially independent life. And when I talk about financial independence, it's, I always say there are two meanings to this. One is more monetary, where, when we talk about financial independent, it means that, we have the financial means to live the kind of life that we want to live. That's number one. And number two, it's so important, especially for women, is the independence for yourself, meaning not relying on another person supporting you financially. In most cases, it would be your spouse, or, some cases, maybe it's your parents or whoever else in your life that has been supporting you financially. And I see this so important as a way for, self-respect and self-love, and in trusting and knowing that we all have the ability to be able to support ourselves living in this world and living a beautiful life. So I'm living my dream life. And so my goal is to take more women on the same journey.
So beautiful. And you really do embody your work. You walk your talk. You absolutely are living a beautiful life. And yeah, and we share a love of travel and all things adventure as well. And I really, I've always connected deeply to your mission. And I think too, one of the reasons I wanted to have you here on the show is because as a extremely independent person myself, maybe sometimes to my detriment, I find that the people that I tend to work with and the people I tend to connect with and the people who are probably listening, independence is an important value for them. And I find, particularly for entrepreneurs, particularly for women, that can easily go by the wayside in various experiences in life. And I find that when women are not feeling independent, or when they're not feeling financially independent, or either or both, it can really affect their joy in life. And you and I both share a deep value for having fulfilling work and fulfilling lives. And so anyway, I love the synergies, and that's why our values are so deeply intertwined, and that's why you're here.
Right. So I have always been very independent myself, and I just assumed that's how everybody is, until I started working in, especially in the real estate industry, that I would talk to clients, I would speak with a couple, and then I would speak to one of them separately, and then I realized, oh my God, they're so different, but yet when they speak together, you don't see that differences. And so what that means is that there's a lot of different values and different maybe differences in how people approach money in couples, and it's just not being addressed in a couple.
Right.
And
Right.
so some things, are swept under the rug. And then over time, I got the deeper meaning or deeper understanding of how men and women deal with money so differently.
Mm.
And so, here I was in 2013, just trying to figure out what to do with my life, when I grow up, right? What is
Yeah.
next for me? Um, and so that was when I was doing a lot of soul searching and thinking about, okay, what are some of the things I can do that's meaningful to me? And also leveraging all the skill sets that I have. And so in 2014, that's when I formally started my coaching business. So when I started, I had this very clear idea about a certain a profile of women
Mhm.
who could really use some help
Yeah.
in stepping up their game with money and finance, and whether it's kind of whether it's in a money relationship, taking over some of that responsibilities, or just getting more involved in household, financial decisions in their household with their partner, as opposed to, I see a lot of women, after they get married, they're letting that piece go. Sometimes it's, because they decided to become a stay-home mom, the guy takes over all the finances. Or I've also seen women who is the breadwinner.
Yeah.
She's the one who's out working hard, bringing the money, and then trusting the guy managing all the, household finances. I see so many different scenarios, but yet at the end of the day, though, they themselves are actually kind of clueless to their own personal finance. They have no idea how much they have together in a household, or they have no clarity in what their financial future is going to look like. So it's either like just work hard and make more money, but then it feels like there's no end in sight.
Right.
Or it's someone who is, the stay-home mom, so there's no clarity, right? So then over time, this sense of dependency builds up, and relying on another person, hoping he'll take care of us, hoping our relationship is not going to go sideways because I really need him to support me financially. There's just so many of these scenarios play out. And so I was very clear, these are the women that I want to really help,
Mhm.
who kind of have let that finance piece go and to build themselves back up again through confidence building, through skill set building. And so that has been my focus, for the, ever since I started my coaching business. And, it has done well. I've had good times. And then, last year, I guess I really kind of hit a low point in my business where I just felt so stuck, like, myself. And that stuckness really comes from the sense of, I feel like I'm banging my head on the wall, and but I'm not getting the response back. And that is, I feel like I provide education for people why they should do this work.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, there are so many women out there who say, yeah, I really need to kind of take a look at my finances, or clean up my finances, but yet they keep sweeping under the table. And so in reality, a lot of the client that I help or have helped in the past years are people in crisis. And when you're in crisis, you're in a mode of just dealing with it, right?
Right.
You're
Survival
not
mode. Yep.
right. You're like in literally the survival mode. What
Mhm.
can I do today to
Exactly. I
help
can't
me
see
get through
tomorrow.
the day? I can't see,
Yeah,
I can't talk about planning. I can't
absolutely.
do this. I just need to get through today. Now, obviously, as a coach, I mean, it is for those clients going through that stage, it is important to have someone to help them through that phase.
Right. Of course.
But at the same time, just as a coach, though, I so much want to do more work with clients where they're not in crisis, where they can actually take the time to, like I said, to tap into the power, that the resources they actually have within themselves,
Mhm.
to create the future that they want, but that takes time and that takes process. But when you're in a crisis, you can't do that, right? So I've been trying but through education to tell people why it is important to do work on your finances when you are not in crisis. And I just got to a point last year, energetically, I just felt so low, and business wise, I was just getting up to a point where like, oh, I'm banging my head against the wall. And so I felt, like I said, I felt stuck for a while. And eventually I came to a place of surrendering, of internally, making that pivot. And at that time, I didn't tell myself I need to make a pivot.
Right.
It wasn't a conscious decision, right?
Correct. Yep.
But I just got to a point where internally I came to a place of surrendering and realizing, and I knew this intellectually before, but still in practice, I came to a place of realizing I cannot help the people who don't want to help themselves. And when I say
Can
they
you
don't
say that again? I think that's so potent and powerful. Can you just say that again?
Yeah, sure. Like I realize that I cannot help the people who don't want to help themselves. And when I say who don't want to help themselves, they probably are not thinking that way consciously on the
Right.
conscious level.
Right.
And so the way it manifests is in their actions. So if they say, yeah, my finance is kind of a mess, or I really, I'm feeling insecure about my financial future, I really need to work on it, but then they don't take actions, those are the people who really don't want to help themselves. And so that's what I mean by that is I don't think if we ask that question, anybody is going to raise their hand and say, no, I don't want to help myself, right? I think we all want to help ourselves. But at the end of the day, is the desire strong enough to actually take action? And so
absolutely,
that's when I literally just surrender and say, you know what, no more banging my head on the wall, no more trying to educate or convince people why they need to do this work for themselves. I'm just going to focus my energy and attention to those people who are ready to go.
100%.
But that was a big thing for me, because there's part of me that feel like, but we are leaving those people behind.
Yeah.
And emotionally and psychologically, that's why, how I started this business. I want to take people along this journey with me. So I don't want to leave people behind.
Yeah.
And so that was also the piece that I had to really work through myself to kind of reconcile with that, in that, yes, there are going to be people left behind, but at the same time, honoring that it is their journey, and that we're not intentionally leaving people behind, but that they're just at a different pace compared to mine or those people who are ready to take the action. And so once I pivoted that with myself internally and psychologically, and also helped myself to reframe that thought of, I don't want to leave anybody behind, then it became a lot easier to say, yeah, I'm just going to let go. I'm going to let all of that go, and trusting that they will come to me whenever they're ready, and I'm always going to be here to support them. So
this is so beautiful, and so there's so many lessons under here, I think, for people who are coaches and people who are not coaches, because the first one I want to react to is hearing you talk about like leaving people behind. And I think any of us that are in any sort of helping profession, which you could argue is most people, there is this sort of like ultimate, in the beginning of this, I wanted to help. And so who am I to like leave people behind as I go forward? And that, I think one of the hardest lessons I've had in my career both as an entrepreneur and when I was a consultant, was you can't help everybody.
Right.
You
Right.
physically can't. There's not enough of you unless you can find a cloning machine. There's however many billion people in the world. Like, it's just not possible. And so in some ways there's a beauty to that. Like, oh, I can't. So I'm better off. And this is all very rational, right? And what you're describing is it's an emotional journey to get here, but it's also very, like, practically speaking, like, when you realize that, there's a beautiful energetic and emotional freedom that comes when you realize that you don't have to help everybody, right? And you weren't even trying to help everybody. You had women specific, you were very clear about your profile, but even within your profile to say, oh, actually, I'm going to tighten that up a little bit for myself,
Right.
because I know the people I actually can help get results and am helping get results, right? I'm sure you were comparing those clients with other clients and going, wait a minute, like, well, I can help my clients get results. So what's happening here? Oh,
Right.
And so, to use my term, because I studied organization development, which is the study of change, there's a readiness. There's a whole sort of like approach to consulting to organizations that we learned about and that sort of follows the philosophy of change, the science of change, which is you start with how ready someone is or an organization is to change. And that's going to dictate how fast they should change, right? If you have charge and control over that, or at what way, maybe this should change first because that's going to be quicker and easier and more comfortable. And then this kind of change, we're going to hold off on that for a little while, right? And that absolutely, like, I think so anyway, let me actually back up. I think that piece of like wanting to help everyone and feeling that you're capable of helping someone, and then you're still in a way saying no to that is really, really not easy. And I think especially as women, right, a lot of times we are trying so much to help each other, help out, but as you said, you were banging your head against a wall. And I do believe that there are people out there whose best zone of genius, sweet spot might be to help people become ready, right? Might be to help people in those crisis moments. And it sounds like, I don't think you eliminated that necessarily, but we all have our sweet spot along the process, right? And I think I see so many people starting out helping people along a whole process, whatever you do for a living, right? I see this even with website designers. It's like, I don't want to help you with this, but I'll help you with that, right? But we oftentimes cover all of it first, and then we go, no to this, no to this, no to this. This is my sweet spot. And that's really what you're doing. And what you've demonstrated is what it feels like when you're not in your sweet spot, what it feels like when you're trying to do something that isn't your space. And I also just agree, like, people can't change if they haven't decided to. You can't want it for them.
So
they do, right?
Right. And so, when I was looking at, who are the people that I want to help, a big part of that is based on the need, because when we're thinking about, creating a business and our work, we've all heard, like, what problem we're trying to solve, what need people have. And so when I started, it was based on this need. And based on what I see, the people who have the biggest need are the people who most of the time are just avoiders of money and finance, because they literally, they haven't done anything with their finances, like, intentionally, right? So they're just kind of moving along their life, living whatever has been kind of happening to them financially and monetary wise. And so in my mind, those are the people that have the biggest need for a coaching kind of service, for them to start with, like, really from the basic. Okay, so, having a spending plan or budgeting practice, or having awareness about how to make money for me and all of that, right? So when I did the shift, I also realized I'm I need to change my definition of need, or
Absolutely. Yeah.
or who are the people who really need my
Mhm.
service. And it's turning out, and once I let that go, my business is blooming again.
Yeah.
But then I also notice people are now coming to me are people who are not, quote unquote, struggling with money,
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
they have the budget spending plan down. They have a good habit of just being a good steward of the money. And so
Mhm.
lately I'm finding that more and more clients, they just want to learn, okay, how can I be smarter with investing and
Good.
making good use of my money, how to have money work for
Mhm.
me. So it definitely, because of the me letting go of that part of it, um I feel like I'm attracting a different crowd now, or
Yep.
a different type of
Mhm.
clients. And again, it was not in my intentionality to say I'm going to focus on helping people to do just this, right? I mean, I'm still helping people with doing the spending plan and
Right.
practices and all of that, but it's just naturally I'm getting more people attracted to me, because they're not struggling with their own day-to-day spending, but they just
Mhm.
want to go to the next level. So that it's also becoming kind of an interesting observation for myself in how
It's
that kind of evolved.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how, because I think your story is such a great example of something that I talk about a lot, which is like externally, if someone's looking at you and your business, if you hadn't told me you felt stuck, I never would have known, because it looks to me like you're still providing the same service, right? It looks to me when I look at your stuff on Instagram, or I notice that you just published a book, right? And like nothing looks different on the outside. And that's so much what I want to normalize, is like sometimes it isn't about the external, anything tangible for quote unquote that other people could see. But what you're describing is A, this was a huge mindset shift for you.
Mhm.
And B, there were tangible results of that shift where you decided to tighten up, almost like who you will say, we'll make an offer to, right? It's almost like, the other people could have been coming to you still, but you would have known to say no to them, right? No, this isn't a good fit at this time. That's really all it is. Like, it's a tiny external thing that thing that nobody would see on the outside.
Right.
But the internal shift, the freedom you feel, and then the attraction of more people coming to you and more people coming to you in this new way that you've already just attracted, the new type of group. That's what I love to talk about here, is that internal shift, the thing that nobody sees. This is the shit that nobody talks about. And
Right.
it's so important, because you've been in business for almost 10 years. These things, this is what it's like to run your own business. And this is what it's like, truly, I believe, to make good decisions as a CEO. You didn't know quite where you were going when you were feeling stuck. It took you a bit, however long, to figure out why, but you followed that inner voice and you listened to yourself and you made the right choice for you, trusting yourself to move forward in the right way. And I think that's what true success is. That's when we are lit up in our
Right.
work. I'm curious for you, if we just go back to the stuck moments,
Mhm.
what are you aware of now in hindsight? I often like to ask people this, like, were there any clues or things that you felt or experienced back then that you now know in hindsight, okay, next time this happens, it will clue me in to, okay, something's got to shift or something's changing. Like, did you have any clues for yourself?
Uh, well, I think, again, now looking back, the sense of feeling stuck was about a whole good year.
Mhm.
With, obviously beginning, it wasn't so strong. It was
Mhm.
just kind of like, it was probably started as kind of light frustration. because I love what I do. You know,
Yeah.
I get so lit up when I coach clients, and I absolutely love what I do. And I never dread, waking up in the morning thinking, oh God, I have to go work again. I absolutely love what I do. Um, so at the beginning, it was just kind of a light frustration about, why don't people get it? Like they need to do the work now when they're not in crisis, right? So
Yeah.
it's one of
Yeah.
those, like, my self-talk is like, it would
Yeah.
be so much easier if they do it now, so they can really um, fully tap into their own potential when they do the work, as opposed to, again, when you're in a crisis, you're just trying to deal with the situation. But then over time, that feeling just got stronger and stronger, to a point where I start to lose sleep over it.
Yeah.
And which it's very rare for me these days.
Yeah. So
Generally
that's a tell for
speaking,
you. You know that,
yeah, and because I mean, I'm living such a peaceful, balanced life right now, that I rarely lose sleep over anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not a good sleeper, but I think it has more like to do with my physical condition. But
Mhm.
I rarely lose sleep over anything like that's happening in my life or business or whatever. But yeah, last year there were a good few months where I really started to lose sleep over it, and thinking to myself, should I even continue to do this? Because I feel like I'm just getting frustrated, and that maybe I should do something else to make me feel more fulfilled. I start
Yep.
to notice I'm starting this kind of a downward spiral, like internally. And that's when I actually, just by chance, I was hooked up to someone, and then I had a session with her. And so that really helped me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great one, because we all have, I've been asking everybody, almost everybody on here, what were your clues? And sometimes we have clues that we've just sort of always have. Like for me, I start to feel things in my stomach. I can feel my body just feels different. Usually that's how it starts for me, but I find that we all kind of have our own. And so for you to lose sleep, yeah. But I also think, the other thing I wanted to say about that is the for people who do work that they love, it's almost like I want to say that this is almost like a moment of privilege to even say this, because we are doing work that we love, and that's not something that everybody is doing or is able to do. But I think sometimes when you really find happiness in life, and you've said that a few times, like I'm truly, like, my life is peaceful, I'm happy, I'm living my dream life. And I think when you find your own path to that, because it is your own, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But when you find your path to fulfillment, to joy in your work, in your life, when things start to dip even a little bit, it's kind of a big deal. It's very obvious. And I think it can also take us down, as you said, like that downward spiral. Sometimes it can take us down quickly. I've seen some of my clients sort of go quickly because it's like, oh no, oh no, oh no, like I found my thing. What's happening to my thing that I love so much? What is going on, right? And so often the answer, absolutely, I am here for all the big pivots, and I've supported people through, going from one drastic type of work to another. But so often, as you said, like, you might have even said, like, well, maybe coaching isn't for me anymore. And the truth is, you just needed to make a small adjustment, really, like to feel a huge change, that small adjustment. And it's like the key, I think, is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but as you did, to trust yourself enough to go through the process of sort of letting the quote answer, find you, and finding that one thing to do.
Right.
How are you feeling today?
Mhm.
Like fast forward now back to present,
Mhm.
about the people that are coming in and the work that you're doing now, and even to what's next.
Right. So I've had a few, ever since that shift inside me, I've had a few things that's come to my mind. And I've been talking, one day I was walking my dog, and still thinking about, the kind of the pivot, the transitions that I was going through kind of internally.
Yeah.
I think about my work, think about, what I want, And then this phrase just came to me, and it's a beautiful life by design.
Mm-hmm.
And because again, I would, kind of going back to, okay, what kind of life I want, what are the components in my own life? I realizing I am constantly, and this is more, I think it's just a way of being for me now. I am constantly designing my life. Like I am not going through life where I'm just kind of coasting. I am constantly designing, say, oh, this is what I want to do. Oh, maybe that's what I want to do this trip next month. I'm constantly designing my life, right? And I just like, to me, it's like, oh, that's beautiful. The fact that I get to do that, right? Yep. And so I said to myself, that's it. That's my new tagline for kind of the new way of doing my business, is to help clients to create a beautiful life for themselves by design. Mm-hmm. And that in an essence is what we are doing when we're working on our money and finances, is that we are bringing intentionality to our life, our financial life. Going back to your question, that is one of the kind of the change as a result of this pivot, is my messaging is different now, right? So it's not just about taking control of your finances, which right. Yes, it's absolutely fundamental. It
still is. Yeah.
It still is,
Right.
Right. But that's not the end game, right? And that's not kind of, you don't necessarily take control of your finances for the sake of that, but it's really for the sake of creating that beautiful life that you want, but you do it by design and not by chance.
100%. So I love it. And that's the intentionality that you're talking about. And I think that's also perfect description of what I said in the beginning, where I feel very much like you really embody what you're, not just what you're helping your clients to do, but you're embodying it and living it every day with, traveling when you want. You've created your business by design. You've created for sure your life by design. And now you're helping others. And you've always been, but you're just using this word now to describe how you help
exactly
people. And that's the empowerment piece as well, right? It all really beautifully works. And I love it. I love how it all sort of shifts and comes together. It sort of like breaks apart and comes back together in a beautiful way.
Right. And then I'm just I am paying attention to what comes to me. Because like I said, because sometimes things come through, but when you're not paying attention, you don't see it. Mm-hmm. But it's exact same thing with money and wealth. Yeah. That there are so many opportunities out there for building wealth, right? But if you're not looking for it, you may just pass it, you may just miss it. And so that's part of this work that I'm helping others to do, is when you become intentional and when you become more savvy around money and finance, you will start to see more opportunities. It's not that they're not there, but you actually start to see it.
Beautiful. Yeah. So if people want to find you, where, I know you have a book out, and if they want to work with you, where's the best way for them to plug in?
Yeah. So my website, and it's www.projectm-mindmoney.com. So that really kind of summarizes my work. It's about mindset and then the actual money skills. So it's projectm-mindandmoney.com. And through on my website, you can, reach out to me. Yes, I published a book last year, and it's called Unleashed, Tapping into Your Feminine Instinct to Create Your Financial Independence. Again, it's the essence of my work. And then I'm also on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm on all of those as well.
Perfect. So I will put the link here underneath so that everyone can, the links here so that they can connect with you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your friendship, for being a colleague that I trust and appreciate bouncing ideas off of, and for sharing your story with other entrepreneurs, because I know it will help. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.